Your party has a big say on this. Viktor Orban, who is holding out of the negotiations, is a member of the EPP. Would you say this is the time to ditch him?
Well, we are in a crucial moment for the development of the European Union. There's a lot of uncertainty among the citizens, and that's why the behavior of Viktor Orban and also of the Prime Minister from Poland, Morawiecki, is simply irresponsible. To block now, to really take the European Union, 440 million citizens, as a hostage for their party political interests, for their egoistic interests, that has to be stopped now. And that is the question over the weekend to prepare the next European Council. Our expectation from a Parliament's point of view is clear. We need to de-block the blocked situation inside of the Council. Parliament is ready to give the money. Parliament is ready to spend the money, to give a momentum for the European economy to come back, to recover. That is what we need. So we are ready. Hopefully the Council is as well ready.
Right, and I want to ask you, you talk about the Council, but we do hear from the Commission now hinting that if this comes down to Poland and Hungary vetoing the overall package, there could be a 25-member state solution, a coalition of the willing. How does that look like in detail? How would you go about that?
Well, first, let me clarify, we want to keep Europe together. That's our ambition. That is our idea behind. And that it was good because in July, the agreement on Council side gave exactly this message of solidarity. And we do it together. Nowhere else in the world, 27 member states are joining their forces and bringing, after the corona impact, now economic growth back. So that is good. That was good. But now, again, the irresponsible behavior is on the table. And that's why I would say, as a fallback position, as a plan B, it is a good consideration to also plan without Poland and Hungary when it is about the corona, the Recovery and Resilience Fund. So if they don't want to join, if they don't respect the rules of the game, and you know the main item is rule of law, is independent of judiciary and freedom of media. If they don't respect the rules in our game on European level, then we do it without them. So they must be aware that this can be a big problem for their own countries.
Right. So you are saying essentially that there is a plan B on the table that could sideline Hungary and Poland if that was needed. There is political consensus among the other 25 countries to go that way if that's what it takes.
Exactly. And that is a good thing because 25 countries join and have a good understanding, a good common understanding. And you know that having the real big amount of money, huge amount of money, 1.8 trillion euros in mind, I think it's now the moment to make clear that this can only work, this money can only be spent with a clear and binding rule of law mechanism. So to link the money to the idea of an independent judiciary and to free media, that is what we as EPP and the whole parliament is fighting for. It's good to see that 25 member states support the idea, only 2 are against and they are isolated, and the overwhelming majority of people. So polls shows us that 80% of citizens in the European Union wants to see such a rule of law mechanism. That's why now it's a moment to do it, now it's a moment to implement it, and if Hungary and Poland is not willing to join, then it's one option to do it without them.
Right. And Mr. Weber, your line on this is very clear, and you have been very transparent on this. But I do wonder, we did hear from Angela Merkel this week suggesting that the German presidency does want an overall 27-member state agreement, that there is still time for talks. So I do wonder, what does a compromise look like when Merkel talks about that? I just really struggle to see how you can bridge Mark Rutte saying we're not going to water down this text anymore and Viktor Orban saying we've got to ditch it. So what is she talking about when she says we need a compromise?
Well, first, the European Parliament was a driving institution to get this rule of law mechanism. So in July, the member states, also Mark Rutte, was not capable to deliver on this rule of law mechanism. So we made it clear that without this, there is no money. So that is a big achievement. And when you speak about the possible compromise, I tell you that on the substance of the agreed rule of law mechanism, I don't see any room of maneuver to change anything. So we can speak about political initiatives. We can assure to the Hungarians and to the Polish politicians that this mechanism will not be abused and misused by party political interests. It's not about this. It's not about interfering in national responsibility. For example, abortion is not the issue. That is a national responsibility in the thinking of the Lisbon Treaty. And that's why we can assure about the concerns of the countries, Poland and Hungary. But on substance, I don't see that there is a big room of maneuver to change anything. The trilogue agreement between the German presidency and the European Parliament is the base for the votes ahead of us.
Okay, so the text cannot be watered down. That's your position, and then if it does, it would be problematic for Parliament, and then we're back to square one. Essentially, that's what you're saying. If the language gets changed and watered down further.
Imagine we have Belarus, for example, we have Hong Kong, we have so much developments on global level. Europe must be the continent of freedom of press and must be the continent of independence of judiciary. And that's why there is no compromise thinkable for us and imaginable for us. That's why let's go for this. And if Poland and Hungary are not supporting this, then we have to go for a plan B. And then, Maria, another point is then on the table, because then we have to consider how to spend the money. And I want to underline that we have to guarantee that this money is spent in a future-orientated way. It's not only about a cash machine for the national budgets. So the money must be spent for real future investments in today's European Union to give the young generation a good perspective. And it must be also linked to concrete reform programs. So what I want to see is, on the one hand, solidarity in Europe, but also responsibility on national level. That means you have to do your homework as well. That's mainly targeted to the socialist countries, for example, in Spain, where they only perceive the money as a cash machine, that the European money is compensating the national budgets. That's not the idea. We want to see future.
Right. And Mr. Weber, I also have to ask you, when you look at the politics of this, there's many critics who would say the reason why we're in this position is because the EPP has not been tough enough on Viktor Orban. He's become a problem child. To some extent, you've allowed him to become that problem child. At this point, would you say he needs to go from the EPP? He cannot stay in your political group. You need to ditch him now.
You know, we already excluded EPP, I would say half, because they are suspended in the party. They have no voting rights. They have no member in any kind of institution of board of the EPP. So they have no say at all in the EPP family anymore. So that is already one important step. We gave already a clear signal. I voted in favor of Article 7 in the European Parliament to start a formal procedure against Hungary. So when it is about rule of law, when it is about independence of judiciary and media freedom, it's not about party political issues. We have to stand firm. And that's why EPP is clear on this. We are defending the rule of law mechanism. And we do this even against Viktor Orban and against Morawiecki. And that's why there is no room of any kind of other interpretation. We fight for this.
Right. And there's room potentially to make this official, because he is still, his party is still very much in your political family. I mean, that's a fact. You're saying he doesn't have really much voting rights and that you stand firm on rule of law, but he's still a member of it.
Yeah, we have in the Renew group, for example, with Macron's team, Babiš there. The Commission said that there is an obvious conflict of interest in the investments of Babiš in Czech Republic. We have the murder of journalists in Malta, socialist government, where for the moment investigations brought no outcome on who killed the journalists in Malta. So we have a lot of problems in the European Union. And my idea is not to party politicize it. It's up to the Commission and finally up to the European Court of Justice to guarantee that our system works, that we defend rule of law inside of the European Union. And now it's a moment to do it. Now it's a moment to make it real. And I'm ready to do so.